Today, I like to be a learner, a researcher eager to explore with all of you, not as an expert. I like for all of us to think about a question. Should we have an unquestionable belief in science? But before we begin, let's think about two theories first. The flat earth theory. I think by the name of this, most of us can already guess what this theory is about. This theory claims that the earth is flat. Another intriguing theory that I want to mention is the Loch Ness Monster, which based upon a photo depicting a prehistoric creature, a Loch Ness Monster was spotted at a lake in Scotland. While these are something common, these are what we term as pseudoscience. They may be extremely intriguing to learn about. I myself find them interesting. But they highlight the need for us to question what we hear or what we should even believe in, even when it comes to science. So some of us may ask, what is science exactly? Well, the official definition of science, according to Britannica, is the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experimentation. Science is the process of us examining the world, and this process creates knowledge. We expect this knowledge to be accurate, to be testable, to be reliable when making predictions. That's why most of us believe that planes won't fall from the sky, or why we trust train will stay on a trail. But here's the thing, science isn't always right. Interesting. But when you really think about it, science is only as reliable as the evidence behind supports it. And sometimes this evidence can be twisted, flawed, or even incomplete. So let's take a look at an example, the Vaccination fraud. In the 1990s, a so-called scientist, Andrew Wakefield, published a paper on the reputable journal Lancet. He made an association between measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine with conditions of autism. This vaccine is also known as the MMR. And with the increase of social media, with online communication, many associated this vaccine with autism as a direct cause. However, this study was actually later discredited. It was discredited, it was retracted when evidence of the methodology were found to be falsified. But let me clarify, this isn't just a one-off occurrence. There has been other studies that have been retracted. But for today, let's focus on this one. So you may ask, what are the results? Well, according to another reputable journal, the BMJ, it stated, quote unquote, it triggered a decade-long public health scars. In particular, according to BBC and other reports, there have been vaccination rate drop from 92% down to a 73%. In fact, in some places of London, they experienced 50% drop. That is half the people living over there. In the US alone, up to 125,000 children were not vaccinated when they were born. The CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, stated that in 2008, the measles cases exceeded any of those in 1997, which is approximately when this paper was published. As a result, this improper use of science led many people to misbelieve that this vaccine causes autism. And we can see these consequences right here. But the improper use of science doesn't just end here. We can also see it in Volkswagen Scandal. How improper use of science can harm our community, can harm the environment. The Volkswagen car company once promoted its clean diesel cars, claiming that it's an alternative to both electrical and hybrid cars. And many people saw this chance, saw this opportunity to wanting to protect the environment, and they chose to purchase the car. However, little do they know, BBC and others have reported that Volkswagen to cheat on the pollutant testing. In particular, they installed a defeat device, covering up what's real. They used the defeat device to falsify the test results, which in reality, these cars actually emit more pollutions than the permissible amount. This event, dubbed the Dieselgate, or the Volkswagen Scandal, harmed our community, harmed the environment. The repercussions were massive. According to CNET, in Europe, the Volkswagen company had to recall 8.5 million vehicles, costing them approximately 6.7 billion euro, which when converted, that is 51.6 billion RMB. So this highlights the importance of us to look out for improper use of science. And this is the exact example of how improper use of science can harm our community, can harm the environment. But the improper use of science doesn't end here. It also happens in individual research. In 2018, a scientist named He Jiankui announced that he had created the first designer babies. Now babies whose genes were edited. He claimed that he edited embryos of two twin girls named Lulu and Nana. He claimed that editing these genes will make them HIV resistant. And we may think genetic engineering is a powerful tool, that is a big step for humanity, but the scientific community has consensus. They come to an established norm saying that human genome editing shouldn't be operated on humans until the conditions were well understood. And He's experiment were seen as a problem. Many think that experiment was reckless. And He bypassed these ethical implications of well-established norm. And in fact, the National Library of Medicine stated that China had imposed a ban on human genome editing. So he bypassed these well-established norms, which highlight the importance for us to negotiate in the era of genetic engineering, to highlight the importance of the improper use of science. We have to watch out for the improper use of science. But we must emphasize that it's not all doom and gloom. Science has made advancement. Science had made our living standards better. But we have to be on the lookout for bad science. And now, I've gathered a few points through my research and I think are worthy to consider when we come across improper use of science. So first, educate yourself. The more you know, the less likely you are to be deceived. The less likely you're going to be deceived by the improper use of science. Which leads on to my next point. We should always ask questions. We should ask who conducted the study. What were the methods being used? And most importantly, do the results align with the conclusions? We should also think ethically. Now, science doesn't just exist in a vacuum. Science has real-world implications. There's ethical implications, and we should all consider that, which leads to my last point. We should stay curious. Curiosity didn't kill the cat. Curiosity made the cat smarter. We should challenge the evidence when it doesn't feel right. So in conclusion, while science is a powerful tool, it is for us to challenge the evidence. We have to challenge it when it doesn't feel right. Let science serve us and not the other way around. Thank you.